So Corsair makes awesome products all across the line. If it's RAM or PC cases, or now that they're into water cooling, this XD5 pump reservoir combo is killer. It's awesome. I had three of these in one system. It was a pretty serious setup, and I noticed that they were starting to get a little nasty and a little cloudy. I had opaque fluid in it at one point, and I learned my lesson there. After breaking down the whole system, I can't even tell you how many times to clean it out. So now it's just water for me. But you will get some sediment in here and just stuff, and it makes it look kind of nasty. I was looking through the instructions, and it's not found in them. There is no disassembly and maintenance instructions whatsoever from Corsair. So I started looking online, and nothing, nothing on YouTube, nothing on. I couldn't find anything on the forums, so I decided to do it on my own. So if you have one of these and you want to maintain it properly and you want to make sure everything's crystal clear and nice, just watch this video. I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, it only takes a few minutes. Super easy. You don't need a lot of tools. You don't need a lot of know-how either. If I can do it, anybody can. And I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, let's get our tools. We got our screwdriver and our extension, and the T6 and T8 hex bit. Those are the only ones that we're going to need to disassemble the entire thing. Let's get all those bad boys out and get organized. We get our stack of cotton swabs or Q-tips or whatever the hell you want to call them. And I also use cotton pads too. You don't want to use anything abrasive. The one thing I forgot to mention earlier is one of these foam brushes. It really helps. It's a lot easier to get in there and scrub around all the crud that's in these reservoirs and stuff if you have one. Blue shop towels are a gift from the Lord if you are doing anything with computers, because they don't scratch any of the plastic, and they're not abrasive at all. Warm soapy water. Just Palmolive dish soap is what I use. And our wooden dowel. Wooden dowel because it won't scratch the inside of the reservoir and we can get into the hard to reach spots. So the very first step in disassembling your XD5 pump is flipping it over. On all four corners, there's a little rubber screw, I guess you could say. It's like a screw covered in like a giant rubber cylinder. And there's, again, one on each corner, and you can just undo those with your fingers. Once you unscrew all four of those, the bottom shroud of the XD5 pump will just come right off. Once you get those screws off, that bottom shroud, just wiggle it loose and just make sure you don't pull on any of the cords coming out of the bottom of the pump too hard, and it slides right out. On to the next screws. The screws we're going to undo is there's 8 hex head screws that hold that metal retention plate on. There's 2 on each corner. and they come off pretty easy. Use one of those. I forgot. It's either the T6 or the T8 hex bit, and they come off super easy. And then we're gonna slide that metal retention plate off the bottom. Okay, now we've got that metal retention plate, and the next thing we're going to remove is the upper part of that black shroud that's on the pump. We need the other smaller hex bit on the screwdriver for these ones, and the next set as well, as a matter of fact. I unscrew these like in a star pattern for pressure. Just like you would do like when you mount a CPU, because there is a gasket in there and you don't want it to leak. So you want to have even pressure on all the sides. So that's very important. You don't want any leaks coming directly out of your pump. Oh my God, that'd be terrible. Now, after we slide that top black shroud off of the top of the pump, we're going to have our last remaining screws. Again, we use the smaller hex bit to unscrew those. And this is what holds the top of the reservoir directly onto the pump. And right underneath this is where our gasket is. So we don't want to damage the gasket, of course. We want to take our time, go nice and slow. We don't want to strip any screws. Oh my gosh, that'd be awful. And I want to say there was like 7 screws, something like that. The top of the pump goes on to, I'm sorry, the top of the reservoir goes onto the pump in only one direction. So it's super easy to line back up when you're reassembling it. I'm gonna admit something here. When I was initially disassembling this pump and recording the video, I looked up to stop the video when I was going on to the next step, and I realized that I never pressed record. So this is actually my disassembly playing backwards because I'm an idiot. So anyway, once you get these screws off, these final screws, you want to kind of rock the top of the reservoir back and forth very gently, and it should release from the pump itself, and then we can get to cleaning. after you get the top of the reservoir off, I can't stress it enough. Where I was just pointing there is that seal, the gasket that stops any leaks. So be extra careful around that. Okay, that was the last of the screws. So there we go. The pump top comes off. I'm sorry, I keep saying the pump top. The reservoir top comes off of the pump very, very easily. If you look straight down at the pump, you'll see the gasket in there. That's what you want to be very careful of. I don't even take it out. There's a small plate on the inside of the reservoir which just easily pushes out. Just wiggle it around, it'll come right out. And now your pump is fully disassembled. Now, there's one more thing that I was using in this that I didn't mention before, and that's a foam brush, one of those foam paint brushes that are like 40 cents at Walmart. You want to be careful on the reservoir because you don't want to scratch it. So, like I use cotton pads, just foam brush, Q-tips. I don't use regular paper towel because I find that sometimes certain paper towels can be abrasive. And you don't want that on your clear reservoir at all. You don't want to scratch the inside to death and make it look worse than it, before it was cleaned out. So I just use regular dish soap, Palmolive dish soap, and just a little bit of warm water, and kind of scrub the inside of the reservoir, scrub that little vortex killer plate that's in the bottom of the reservoir, and just go around it really good. Rinse it out with regular tap water. I don't bother with distilled water when I'm cleaning the stuff. Uh, I don't use any alcohol or anything like that when I'm cleaning any plastic parts because alcohol and certain plastics just don't mix. Sometimes it'll cloud them up. It can even melt them. So you want to be super careful, and you don't want to scratch up your Corsair XD5. It's a really really nice looking reservoir pump combo. Um, I like I said, I had three of them in one system. I had three separate loops in one giant system that I built, and they never failed. They were always great. Corsair did a really, really kick ass job when they made this thing. On this part, I don't want to scratch up the outside of the black shrouds either, so I just use like a cotton swab. Um, Same soapy water. I don't. I didn't clean anything with anything other than that dish soap and just warm water. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to, if you have a lot of crud in there, to let the soapy water sit in there for a little bit. Let it soak up a little bit. It'll be easier to remove any gunk that's in there. Uh, I don't think I'll ever use opaque fluid ever again, or any colored fluid again in any of my systems, because when it gunks up, like it's really, really bad. It's bad for your components. You don't want them to overheat if they're not getting cooled properly. And it's really just a pain in the ass to disassemble your entire loop, clean out tubes or bend new ones, take the jet plates out and micro fins, and oh god. So just distilled water and biocide. That's all I put in my systems now. Do the opaque fluids look cooler? Of course they do. Of course they do. But for an everyday driver, no thanks. Just water for me now. Um, Again, I'm just using cotton swabs and that foam brush on the shrouds. Rinse those off with regular tap water. Make sure everything's dry before you put it all back together too, because you got to think there's LEDs and wires and stuff in the top of the reservoir and coming out of the bottom of the pump, of course. So we don't want to short anything. So make sure you're careful where you're flinging water around. And If you're unsure, just let it sit for a little bit after you've dried it well with paper towels. The best paper towels that I found, you see the blue ones in the video. They're just they're called shop towels. They're in the Walmart automotive section, and what I found is they're a lot softer than regular like kitchen paper towel, and they don't leave lint behind, which is great for electronics, especially. And they're super soft. They don't scratch anything. They're not abrasive. They're really, really, really good. Really, really good. They're a little more expensive than regular paper towels, but it doesn't matter when you're cleaning out your rig. You want to make sure you have the best and make sure it's running at its peak. So that's what I use. Got them at Walmart. It's like $3 a roll or something. Now you may have wondered why I said that you need a wooden dowel in order to clean this thing out. Well, those little wooden dowels, they're not going to scratch the inside of the plastic. So what I do, if you watch up here, I actually end up taking a cotton, a little piece of cotton, like a cotton pad, and put it in the soapy water and push it through the tube in the reservoir with a wooden dowel. So A, I don't scratch it, and B, I can get the crud out of the tube in the inside. Q-tips will go in there, but they won't go all the way. And they're a pain in the neck to try to bend around and really clean where you want to clean. So very, very small diameter wooden dowel. It's like, I don't know, 20 cents. I buy a bunch of them at once because I also use them when I delid processors to get thermal solder off because it won't scratch the die on the processor. Those other things that work are there's these little wooden sticks that are in like the nails section of the store. I guess that they're used in doing women's nails. I don't know. But I find that those are really good too to use because they won't scratch anything. But yeah, so that's what the wooden dowel is for. You can use a popsicle or craft sticks too. They won't scratch the inside because wood's soft. But that's the reason why we use those. All right, now once everything is dry, we reassemble. We put the vortex plate in the reservoir, and then we put the reservoir onto the pump. We do those screws. The next step is the top black shroud will go on. And after that top black shroud goes the retention plate on the bottom. That retention plate has indentations for each screw top. Okay. So if the pump is facing upright when you put that plate on, those indentations should be facing downward. So when you screw the screws in, There's 2 on each corner. The screw heads are flush with the plate. So just look at both sides of the plate. The indentations would face down. Okay, you can see it right now. So 2 of those on each side. And then you slide the bottom black shroud on and just use your fingers to finger tighten those 4 rubber coated screws on the very bottom. And you are fully reassembled and ready to go. So fresh and so clean. And there you have it. It wasn't too bad, right? I'm not sure why they wouldn't have put the instructions on how to do this in the manual, but it's fairly easy. So, I mean, this stuff's it's not cheap, so we want to make sure it's always running at tip top. Plus, we don't want to damage anything on our PC. And when people look at your rig, you know, especially when you water cool it, you don't want them to be like, oh, what the hell is that? You know, what's that gunk in there? So you won't have to now. Now, remember, whenever you disassemble anything like this, it's always at your own risk. But I'm fairly confident that if you followed all my steps exactly as I laid them out and used the materials that I did, you're going to be just fine. I wouldn't worry about it. But I've cleaned a bunch of these already, and that's why I switched to regular distilled water. I'll never use opaque fluid again. Hopefully this video helped you out. If you're looking for instructions on how to do that, let me know in the comments. I don't really upload a lot of videos. I might start now, because I find that when I'm looking for answers for something, I find videos that tell me everything except the answer to the question I was looking for. So I want to make some straightforward videos as easy as possible. Again, I'm no genius. If I can do this, anybody can. So hopefully it worked out for you, and we'll see you on the next one.